Hi class, today we're going to begin our foil embossing project. When we start, we're going to have our piece of cardboard and a pencil to put our designs on. I want you to really think about what you want to communicate in this piece of artwork. Do you want to talk about nature? Do you want to talk about your favorite sport? Maybe you want to just talk about an emotion. Remember, color is going to be a key part of this process. So think about something that's going to have multiple colors that you can work with by the time we're finished. Today, I'm going to speed this up a little bit so that you can watch how I think out and draw my initial idea in pencil on the cardboard. Now, I really like this design, and when I started, I thought, well, grass is kind of pointy like this, but if I'm going to be using string, what's the reality of me being able to make this grass pointy and easily doing that? It's not really a great idea, so now that I've thought about it, I'm going to go back and I'm going to change this grass to be a little bit flatter. Okay, so for the next part of this project, you're going to need a bottle of Elmer's glue, and you're going to need your yarn and some scissors. When I look at this project, I only want to follow the lines that I put on here with my yarn. And I need to take my time with this to make sure that I'm only putting glue where I want the yarn to go. It's best to start on the edges and then work your way out this direction into the rest of your painting, or top to bottom, bottom to top, whatever works best for you. You're going to trace those lines with a line of glue. It doesn't have to be really thick because you don't want it to goop up too much and ruin your embossing later, but it needs to be a pretty decent amount that's stuck on there. I'm going to come over here and do this little section too. And then I'm going to stop about here and start working with my yarn. It makes it easier to do this in sections. And I'm going to make sure that my yarn's attached to the ball of yarn that I'm using and not cut it until I go off the edge of the page somewhere. That's really the best way to go about it. But you have to be careful the rest of it doesn't hang and get into your glue while you're working on it. So I'm going to start at an edge, and I'm just going to push the yarn gently into that glue. And this takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of work. You might get some on your hands once in a while, no big deal. If it gets super sticky, you can go wash your hands over at the sink, but just try not to use too much time at the sink, because your hands will just get sticky again. Might as well wait to the end. As long as it's not causing trouble getting your glue, or your yarn into your glue, then you don't need to wash your hands yet. See, I've already gotten some on here, but it's not in my way, so I'm just going to keep going. And I'm going to come to the edge of my tree, and this would be a whole separate yarn. So I'm going to grab my scissors, I'm going to snip it right there where it touches the tree. I'm going to make sure everything else is kind of pushed in where I want it to be. And that's going to work on drying while I continue doing the next part of my tree. So the next part that starts on an edge is right here. It's going to go up and then back down. And this is a section to consider under my foil. It's going to have this little loop under here. We'll have to see how that works out in a little bit, or if that's too tiny or too big, it might cause a problem. Now this route keeps going. So I'm going to grab my glue. I didn't want to put too much on and have too much glue in the way or drying while I was working on things. So I'm going to add a little bit more glue. Until it touches that next edge. I'm going to keep working on this all the way out. Pinch the end so that it can go back over. Up into here. And then I hit another edge. So I'm going to snip. So every time I hit an edge, I'm going to snip that little bit out. And this part I can kind of semi-measure, just this little guy over here. And then I'm going to go like this. So now I have my tree done. Let's speed up the rest of this project so you can see how it goes. There we go. And this is all the further we're going to work on this project today. I'm going to let my glue dry until I see you guys in class next week. I'm going to make sure my name is on here so it doesn't get lost and I know who it belongs to. So you can put that on the drying rack where I put mine, and I'll see you guys next week. Go ahead and find an early finisher if you finished up early. If you don't quite get finished in class today, that's okay. Go ahead and put it on the drying rack and we'll continue these next week. Hi guys, welcome back. We're going to continue working on our foil embossing projects today. Last time you came in, we put the string down and we let it dry with all of your glue. Today, we're going to add more glue in between the lines this time. And this time when you want to put it on, you just want to do a line around because we're going to spread it out with a paintbrush or with our fingers here in a few minutes. We don't want this part really thick because we want it to get tacky. It means we want it to get sticky so that the foil sticks to it within a couple of minutes. You don't want to wait all of class and then run out of time and not be able to put your foil on because you got it too wet. So we're just doing a real thin, quick layer on here. Color this area in a little bit. And again, this is pretty thin. None of this is really bumpy and really thick. You can use a paintbrush if you're afraid of getting your hands sticky. I just like to use my fingers because then I can feel if it's spread thin enough that it's going to get sticky. And I can tell when it's starting to get tacky by touching it. So I'm going to be careful in these small areas. I'm going to make sure to get all of my areas around my string. Some of it's loose from last time where I didn't get it in the glue. That's okay, we'll work around that this time. And when you guys are working on these today, I want you to grab a piece of tracing paper over there on that side table. I should be pointing to it now. I want you to put that underneath yours because I don't want yours getting on the desk. If it gets on the desk and we don't get it up before it dries, then it makes those hard little bumps on the desk that do not come off the rest of the year. And every time you try to draw something and you hit that bump, it messes up your drawing. So make sure you put a piece of paper under yours so that we don't get that glue on the table and you don't have drawing problems later this year. If you do happen to get glue on the table, get it up right away with one of those blue towels that are over next to the sink. Not the one you're using for your dry erase names, but the ones that are over by the sink. I'm trying to get this all equally spread out in here. You can tell it's really thin. There's not much to it. You can see where it's shiny, but see how if I do this, it picks the paper up more than in other places. See, it's still wet down here because I just spread it, but up here where I was spreading it earlier, it's a lot tackier, it's a lot stickier. That's where we want to let it get. And then you're going to let it sit for about a minute. So check out the clock and touch it every 20 seconds or so to see if it's getting sticky or tacky. Go ahead and start this part of the project. Okay, I've let mine dry for a couple of minutes to let it start getting tacky. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my foil. It has two sides. It has this side, which is kind of dull, and it has this side, which is really shiny. We want to leave the really shiny side up. And I'm going to kind of look at it and see about how much foil I need. I'm going to trim off the extra. If I have enough extra to give to my neighbor, awesome. Let's do that so we're not wasting our resources. So this one will fit down right on top. I'm not going to stick it yet though, because I want these areas to show up. So what I'm going to do, since the flattest part of my drawing is this way, I'm going to work backwards or upside down. I'm going to start by sticking the foil on this side. I'm going to kind of line up the edge a little bit. I'm going to start pushing it down with my thumb on this side until I get to that line of string or yarn that's on there, right? And then when I get there, if I look on this side carefully, I tip it over, it's going to bump up on that line of string. And we're going to start working our foil around those lines of yarn that are on here. Remember, I have lots of lines on here, so I'm going to work to the next one. And I'm just kind of pushing down, and then after you push down, you can go back and pinch it very gently. You don't want to tear your foil, but you can pinch at the foil to find the edges of those lines. I'm going to go to the next one. And sometimes I have those gaps in between where I had my waves. I'm going to have to work my way around those, the edge of the tree over here. And I can kind of feel those through the foil as I'm working. Push it down, and then I'm going to pinch it around that next set. And I keep working the foil back and forth all around those edges. See it in here where my tree and all my waves are at? It's getting a little bumpier. We're going to go back in and fix those in a minute. I'm going to keep working my way up, but I'm going to fast forward it for you guys. Okay, now I have all of my foil in the basic areas around my yarn. Now it's time for me to go in and really make these edges more defined and a little bit sharper. So I'm going to use a closed Sharpie because I'm using the end of my Sharpie, and very gently I'm going to do what's called burnishing. I'm going to push the foil along those lines very gently with the rounded side so it doesn't tear my foil, and push it down so it sticks a little better all around those areas. This is called burnishing. I'm going to find my next little line. Oh, this is where I had my tree, that's right. And this is where it's going to be helpful to have the drawings you did in your sketchbook next to you so you can remember where all your lines are. And then I'm going to go back in and flatten this part out with my finger, another kind of burnishing, as much as I can. I want that to be really flat for the next step that we're going to do in this project. And remember, your glue had to be tacky to get this part to work because this is where we're really sticking the foil down to the glue, and we're doing it around all of these sections of yarn. So I'm going to speed this up again for you so you guys don't have to watch this forever. Okay, so I finished burnishing. If you saw there over here, I had a little tear where I accidentally hit this part of my Sharpie on there, so I just pushed that down into the glue to fix that a little bit, and I'll just have to be careful when I'm coloring in that section. Now you'll notice we have some extras around the edge. You want to turn over your cardboard. I'm recycling today, so you can see where I have my cereal box on the back side, and you want to tuck all of these extras around the edges like this, so they don't show on the other side, and it gives it a nice straight edge. Again, be careful your foil doesn't tear. Flip up the corners, even the super tiny ones. And now, there should be some masking tape for you guys to tape down all around the edges. So there, now my edges that have the foil are all neatly taped. This one didn't quite reach the edge. Try and make sure your foil overlapped all the way. Now we're going to move on to the next part. Everyone's favorite part, the time where you get to use all of the different colored Sharpies. So in the Sharpies that are on your table, you should have lots of pinks, red, oranges, yellows, green, blues, and purples. That's what we're going to be looking at using today. When you're coloring with the Sharpies, we're going to be doing it very gently. We don't want this to get really crazy out of control and poke through your foil. You want to keep it nice and light. Go around those edges that you spent a long time burnishing to tuck in there, but do it nice and gentle. Again, we don't want to poke a hole. So if I'm going to do my sky blue, I'm going to go around my edges really gently. And then I'm going to take my Sharpie, and on the side, not on the tip, but I'm changing it all the way side. I'm holding my pen, my Sharpie, way in the back, and I'm going to start coloring it in very gently and slowly, all of the sections that I want to make blue. So let's speed this film up for you guys. And there you go. You have a beautifully embossed metallic piece of artwork. If you want, you can even grab a marker and put your fancy signature on there, so we know that it's yours. Go ahead and place it on the drying rack. Those will be ready for you to pick up next time.